Not every guitar is perfect. Sure, you have products like the Evertune, but that's kind of a specialty item. What if you have a Strat, or a Les Paul, or two Les Pauls? Whatever guitar you have, I've got some tips for you. Some of these will apply to any guitarists, and some of these will be more for studio musicians. When you first learn how to play a guitar, there's a couple things you have no idea about. Tuning, and replacing strings, for instance. Nowadays, you have these little clip-on tuners, and if you've been out and about, you've probably seen these on quite a few headstocks. The concept is simple. You strum a string and aim for the green line. For beginners, that totally works, and it'll sound mostly okay, but if you want to sound just that much better, try a few of these things out. Number 1. Tune up to the note. I can't tell you how many times I see people just tune the string down if it's sharp and they just roll with it. The problem with that is when you bend a note or even strum too hard, it's just going to go out of tune. By tuning down, you're uncoiling the string at the tuner, and it basically has a little slack that will change your tune once you play. In the studio, that's no problem. You can just retune it. But live, that can kind of suck. So if you find a string is a little sharp, tune down and then up. It's a subtle trick, but it will make a ton of difference. You want to be slow when you tune up, but by all means, tune it down real fast and then just with a fine touch, get it right up to pitch, and you'll be a lot happier with the results. So today I've got my trusty Blue Sparkle Les Paul, and we're going to go ahead and look at tip number 1 to tune up to the note. So let's go ahead and take a look. I purposely tuned this up just so we could do this, but let's just tune down. All right, so I tuned down, and now watch what happens if I bend a note, for instance. I'm flat. That's why you want to tune up. Number 2, tune for the attack, not the decay. When you strike a string, it will go sharp for a second and kind of mellow out down to a note. When you think about it, your pick is literally bending the string as it's striking down. So it makes sense, but it can also mess with your tuning. If you strum a note and tune as it's fading away, it's not necessarily how you would play the guitar normally. If you play chords or songs in general, you tend to keep strumming notes. So when you tune, try and strum repeatedly. Nothing crazy, just kind of the energy of how you would normally play. Not everyone strums the same way, so this tip can really help you adjust for your style. Some people pick really soft, and some people go full Metallica on it. Either way, this can really help you out. So tip number 2 kind of plays off of what you saw in tip number 1, and that's with how I was tuning. I didn't just strum a note and then slowly tune while it's fading out. Let's go to a different string. So some people probably just strum the note and they kind of just, approximate it. They get it close, call it a done day. All right, cool. But in reality, what you want to do is kind of keep strumming the note. I'm actually a little sharp on my snark here. And go back down and then up. And we're just going to get there roughly. If you're liking these tips and want to see more videos like this, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button. Now for tip number 3. If you've ever felt like going metal for a day, you've probably tuned your low E string down to a D. It's called drop D tuning, and it sounds like bow. Usually people do it by ear because you just tune up to your D string and match them up. That's the concept here. It can be done anywhere on the guitar, and it might reveal some intonation issues you have, but it's great for getting perfect takes in the studio. Some chords just don't play nice because, as we said earlier, a guitar just isn't perfect. It's an approximation of math. If I tune for a major chord, my minor chord won't sound as pretty, and vice versa. Once you go down this path, I will warn you that you're going to start noticing tuning on other things more often. It's a way of ear training your pitch, actually. I don't think it's a bad thing, but it can help you stay in tune and hear when certain things are just plain out. Tip number 3 is probably something you've seen a lot of people do on guitar, and it's really fun actually, but you just take this low string and you pretty much just match it to the D string. Clean shredding. It's really fun, it's easy, but it's pretty much the example for this tip. Number 4, a little side tip that relates to all of these is to try and bend the note after you tune. I don't do this for every string, but if I know I have a guitar that just seems to get weird after trying all these things, or I just know I'm going to bend a note a lot, it can help to just give it a little bend and see if it changes. If it does, you can tune it up like we discussed. It's more often you'll find this on high strings, but it does happen, especially if you use a whammy bar or something like that. Tip number 4 is something you might have seen me doing already, but it's basically bending the note when you're tuning to kind of like preemptively stretch anything out. So let's say, all right, so I've got, what is that, a sharp G. Let's say, let me bend that real quick. Look at that, it's in tune now. It's something you can do whether you're a little bit sharp or maybe you're in tune and want to just check your tune. Bonus tip. This is a tip for after you've done all this fancy tuning we keep talking about. It's more of something to take note of when you play. As I said, everyone plays a little differently. Strumming is a big difference for sure, but there's also your fretting hand. Once again, some people are just more heavy-handed and some have a lighter touch. Some people also just have a tendency to bend certain notes and strings more than others. As a producer, this is something you want to keep an eye out for, because you can spend all this time tuning or even tune it yourself, only to hand it off and wonder why it's still not sounding right. Well, the answer is usually right in front of you. As a player, this is something you can take note of while you play. I know for me, I can hear when something is funky and I can kind of readjust on the fly to try and compensate for those things. It's something you'll tend to notice as you're playing, and you'll start to get a feel for it once you start noticing it. Now, this next tip is more of something for producers, but it's also something that as a player, you'll start to notice if you think about it. And it's pretty much how your fingers are placed. So you could tune the guitar all you want, but if someone starts to bend the strings, you'll wonder to yourself, what the heck is going on? Why does the guitar sound out of tune? You could check all your tuning, I'm in tune, yeah. But then I hand it to someone and maybe they're like bending something weird and you're just like, what's going on? It's not the guitar, sometimes it's your hand. So something you want to watch for is how are they holding the guitar? Because some of it's very subtle. They'll just, maybe some people pull a little bit, or maybe they just squeeze down on the strings really hard. And those are something you're going to kind of want to watch for. And as a player, you'll start to notice it as you play. You start to develop a feel for when you're in and out of tune. And it can really help just when you're playing in general, because you'll start to kind of get a feel for that, and you'll start to play more in tune without even realizing it, because you're just mentally fixing these little things as you're playing them. So that's something to kind of look out for too. A lot of live guitar techs actually stretch their strings, just kind of pulling on them. Nothing crazy, just giving them a little tug. And I mean, some people bend them all, so it's a little bit more natural of how you would actually bend the string. And then you go back in tune. By stretching all those strings, you kind of work out some of those kinks that I was talking about that you're going to run into just from everyday play. It's kind of good to do pretty much, if you're going to start out playing for the day, maybe give them a little bend, little something, just even them out so that nothing's funky up here, Hopefully after watching this, your guitar is in better tune than it's ever been and you can jam in peace. Maybe you're a songwriter and you've just wanted more pro-sounding guitars. Whatever it is, this should help, and if you like this video, feel free to share it with anyone that's struggling with tuning. And until next time, peace out.